So if you're running a trust in India with more than 100 employees, you already know that the whole world of labor law has been turned upside down. It's a lot, I get it, but we're here to help you cut through the noise. In the next few minutes, we're going to give you a super clear, actionable guide to the new labor codes so you can get back to focusing on your mission. Let's dive right in.
First things first, let's just step back and look at the big picture, because the scale of this simplification is, well, it's massive. We've gone from this tangled mess of 29 different labor acts all the way down to just 4 codes. And look at these numbers. The number of legal sections has been more than halved. And the registers you have to physically maintain, that plummets from 84 down to just 8. This is not just a little tweak. It is a complete overhaul.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll touch on the why behind this huge cleanup. Then we're going to get into the real meat of it, the 4 new codes, covering everything from paychecks to Social Security. And we'll wrap it all up with the most important part, a simple action plan you can actually use. Okay, let's kick things off with the big idea here, the Great Labor Law Cleanup. How on earth did we get from 29 different acts down to just 4? Well, the whole point of this, an idea that's actually been around since 2002, was to untangle a system that had just become way too complicated over the decades. When you boil it all down, it's about making life simpler and clearer for employers, while still protecting the core rights of workers. And that brings us to the first of the new codes, the Code on Wages. This one is all about the fundamentals, right? It's making sure your team gets paid what they're owed, fairly and on time. So under this code, your main responsibilities are crystal clear. You've got to pay the official minimum wage. You have to make sure there's absolutely no pay gap between men and women doing similar work. You set the pay schedule, but pay very close attention to this next one. When an employee leaves, doesn't matter if they resign or are let go, you have to settle all of their final dues within just 2 working days. That is a really strict deadline you need to be ready for. And this chart here shows another really key rule on pay. You can, of course, make deductions for things like fines or absences or if you gave in advance, but there's a hard limit. The total of all those deductions cannot be more than 50% of an employee's total wages for that pay period. It's a clear line in the sand to protect your employees' take-home pay. All right, moving on to code number 2, the Industrial Relations Code. You can think of this one as the rulebook for creating a smooth, structured, and harmonious workplace. It's all about managing that relationship between you, the employer, and your staff. Now, for a trust your size, 2 different committees are now required by law. First up is the Works Committee. Its job is to look at the big picture and promote good relations overall. The second one, which actually kicks in once you have 20 workers, is the Grievance Redressal Committee, or GRC. That's for handling specific individual employee complaints. Since you have over 100 employees, you're going to need to set up both. So let's quickly walk through how to set up that Grievance Redressal Committee. It has to have an equal number of people from management and from the workers' side, and it can't have more than 10 members total. The job of chairperson flips back and forth each year. And you have to make sure women workers are properly represented. Now here's the kicker. Once a grievance is filed, that committee is on the clock. It has to be resolved within 30 days. This code also brings a lot more clarity to really difficult situations like retrenchment or layoffs. For an organization of your size, the rule is now very specific. You must give 1 month's notice, and you have to pay compensation equal to 15 days of wages for every single year that person has worked for you. Okay, on to our third code, the Occupational Safety, Health, and Working Conditions Code. It's a mouthful, I know, so let's call it the OSH code. This one gets into the nitty-gritty, the practical stuff you need to do to make sure your workplace is a safe and healthy environment for your entire team. So let me just ask you a straight-up question that's probably on your mind. As a trust with over 100 employees, do you have to provide a canteen? And the answer is a simple, straightforward yes. The code makes it mandatory. Once you cross that 100-worker mark, a canteen is a non-negotiable welfare facility you've got to have. Okay, let's try another one. How about a creche? You know, a daycare facility for your employees' kids. Is that something you need to provide? Yes, you do. And what's really important to notice here is that the threshold is much lower. This rule kicks in once you have more than 50 workers. The good news is the code gives you some flexibility. It can be your own private facility, or you can team up with others and use a shared creche service. Now, beyond just canteens and creches, this code sets out some other really basic duties. You need to do a single, one-time electronic registration for your trust.
Every single employee needs a formal appointment letter. You have to provide free annual health checkups. You also need to create a safety committee. And another big one. Women can work night shifts, but, and this is a big but, only if they agree to it and you have all the right safety measures in place for them.
So we've talked about physical safety at work, but the law also demands a financial safety net for your team's future. And that brings us to our fourth and final code, the Code on Social Security. This one is a big deal because it takes 9 separate old laws and bundles them all into one single framework.
So here's a quick look at the big ones. You've got the Employee Provident Fund, or EPF, that applies once you hit 20 employees. Then there's the Employee State Insurance, or ESI, which kicks in at just 10 employees. And of course, gratuity and maternity benefits. Now, for a trust with over 100 employees, you're way past all of these thresholds. So the bottom line is, you have to comply with every single one of these schemes.
Phew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So what do you actually do with all this information? Let's pull it all together into a simple, practical checklist to help you make sense of it all. This is your action plan.
Think of your compliance tasks in 4 buckets. First, the foundational stuff you do once. Get registered, set up those committees, get your EPF and ESIC going. Then you have your monthly rhythm, paying wages, making your deposits, keeping records up to date. Then you have your annual tasks, like filing one single unified return. And finally, you have event-based actions for things that pop up, like a new hire, an accident, or someone leaving. This simple framework turns a giant pile of laws into a workflow you can actually manage.
And it's worth remembering the spirit behind all these changes. The government itself has said that the goal here is to be facilitative, not punitive. They're trying to help organizations get it right, not just play a game of gotcha. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Are these new codes just another big compliance headache to deal with? Or could they actually be a blueprint for building a safer, fairer, and ultimately a much more productive workplace for everyone? It's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us.